everybody, and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, we are going to be breaking down what Bitcoin is doing, talking about some of the FUD that's came out around Coinbase, around KuCoin, and talking a little bit more about what I think the short-term price of Bitcoin is going to be doing. We're also going to be jumping over here and taking a look at one of the most important charts that's going to really factor in alt season, understanding why and when we're going to experience our first true alt season of this bull run, talking a little bit more in depth on why I think that we're so close to our next alt season. We're also going to be finishing up talking about one of my favorite altcoins I think is going to be taking off in a big way. So once again, stay all the way to the end if you want that altcoin pick. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Sign up on my website, linked in the description below if you want to see my portfolio. And with that being said, let's jump into the shorter time frames with Bitcoin. Let's take a look at what we're seeing here. Now, right off the bat, guys, I wanted to come over here and talk about Bitcoin because we're having a short-term sell-off really impacted around the Coinbase news, around the KuCoin news, and what that mainly has to do with the SEC coming out saying that, ultimately they think that they're in the wrong. This is generally what you're going to see each and every one of these cycles. Now, if we come out here and come to a bigger time frame, notice where we're at. We're right here at these all-time highs. We've technically made a new all-time high, and we're consolidating just right below those. Now, in the last cycle, we saw a lot of the same thing, where once we started running into this prior all-time high and into new all-time highs, we saw this little consolidation and there was some short-term FUD. At this time, there was a lot more FUD really around the fact that we were expecting a financial collapse, all of this different stuff going on in the pandemic. And so we did see a short-term, capitulation. It wasn't really that big. Now, coming all the way over here in 2016 and 17, I can't remember exactly which one of these it was, but I believe it was this one right here, where we made a new all-time high, and then China came out and actually announced that they were banning Bitcoin. Instantly, we saw Bitcoin drop 35%, and this is something we've seen historically every one of our bull markets. Once Bitcoin starts getting ready to go into price discovery, we usually see some type of a FUD event. And in the last cycle, it was more to do around the pandemic. In this current cycle, it has to do with Coinbase and it has to do with KuCoin. The SEC came out and said that KuCoin's in the wrong. They said the judge apparently sided against Coinbase in some ruling. It's always just some random thing that pops up. Short-term price might dip a little bit, but we always end up seeing this happen right before we go into price discovery. So it should be an encouraging sign nonetheless. Now, guys, what I really wanted to focus on here for today's video is really helping you guys understand alt season, understanding what we need to see for true alt season to take place. And one of the most important setups that I've noticed is really centered around Dogecoin, because Dogecoin, in my opinion, is the alt season indicator. The only time that Dogecoin is doing good is when all of the altcoins are doing good. And this one has the entirety, price history. This thing goes further back than any of the other cycles, and it's the one altcoin that has just continuously outperformed Bitcoin along the way, whereas many of the other altcoins didn't end up doing that were from around 2014 and 2015 timeframes. So one of the things that I've noticed here is every single time Bitcoin goes into a new all-time high, whether it's retesting the high or whether it's actually breaking out, it's always at the beginning of a new Dogecoin cycle. And I think that this is something that's important to understand, because if Dogecoin is setting up for a new cycle, it means that altcoins as a whole are setting up for a new cycle. And all I'm really looking at when I'm trading Bitcoin or when I'm trading Doge is using the charts as a reference point by understanding the index itself. If Dogecoin in and of itself is an alt season index, we need to be paying attention for its moves and seeing how it correlates with Bitcoin's price structure, which historically speaking, every time Bitcoin hits this prior all-time high and goes into a new all-time high, it's right once Dogecoin goes into a new all-time high as well. And actually what we end up seeing is Dogecoin massively outperforms Bitcoin each and every one of these cycles. Now, most recently, if you guys notice, we've gone over here and we've technically made a new all-time high. We've retested the prior ones and we're consolidating right at that same level. And what you notice is at this exact same time, we've seen Dogecoin break out of this 600-day accumulation bottom in a very similar way that it kind of did in this last cycle right here, in a similar way that it kind of did in this last cycle right here. Now, if we come over here and look at Dogecoin, from the all-time highs to the point of us going into a new all-time high, this first cycle was like 1,200 days. In the last cycle, it was like 1,120 days. And in this cycle, we're looking at pretty much that same time. Right now, we're sitting at 1,057 days. So in my opinion, we're right on path with all of the prior cycles, as far as time frames go, going from the prior all-time highs to new all-time highs, seeing how every single time Bitcoin goes into a new all-time high, that's right once Dogecoin starts to do the exact same thing, except Dogecoin massively outperforms Bitcoin. So I do think that Dogecoin is a better hold than Bitcoin over the rest of this cycle, but the main reason I'm talking to you guys about this has everything to do with this chart over here. Now, we can come over here and and look at Dogecoin, and we can really start to see how not only does Dogecoin line up with Bitcoin, but how does Dogecoin line up with the Bitcoin dominance? Because this is a very important thing to look at. Notice how at the very beginning of all of these cycles, it's also at the very exact point that Dogecoin bottoms and starts going into a new all-time high. Anytime the Bitcoin dominance is at a topping point, it's always at the very beginning of a new Dogecoin cycle. And even if we come back in our last cycle, Dogecoin started to break out right here, and it actually outperformed Bitcoin along this entire first little breakout. Even though Bitcoin made this false bull trap, Dogecoin still ended up making its first higher highs and actually outperforming Bitcoin during that time. And so what we end up seeing is even if Bitcoin just instantly drops from a high, or whether Bitcoin makes this final sort of capitulation, this final bull trap in the Bitcoin dominance, Dogecoin, historically speaking, has always started reversing once we're at the point of flipping in the Bitcoin dominance. And if we come all the way back down to where we're at today, notice how we've been consolidating here at this same exact level, the same descending resistance, but notice what Dogecoin is doing. It's actually over here breaking out. So the fact that Dogecoin is starting to break out, it just broke out of this 600-day, accumulation. This is a big accumulation pattern that we were in. Literally 620 days, I think. From peak low all the way to breaking out. Yeah, about 620 days that we spent inside of this accumulation. So if we're seeing the Bitcoin dominance now at descending resistance and Dogecoin is breaking out, historically speaking, Dogecoin only breaks out and goes into a new all-time high once Bitcoin dominance is topped. And we can see that happen in 2017. The very beginning of that year, the very beginning of the new uptrend for Doge, that was at the same point where Bitcoin dominance topped. Coming over here in December of 2020, that was the same moment for Dogecoin as well before it started breaking out. Now where we're at today, we don't know what the Bitcoin dominance itself is going to do. Are we going to make one more final high, maybe more along the lines of what we saw over here in the last cycle, or are we just going to kind of fall off a cliff like what we saw in 2017? I don't know for sure yet, but what I can say is seeing Dogecoin breaking out, it is 100% a signal that the Bitcoin dominance is at a reversal point. And I think that's the most important thing that we're factoring in when we're looking at long-term charts, when we're understanding altcoins. The only way that you're ever going to understand how altcoins move or when altcoins are going to outperform is by looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart, because the Bitcoin dominance always foretells whatever the direction the market's going to take, both bullish or bearish. The fact is, we've been in a long-term downtrend for this Bitcoin dominance forever. It's only ever been going down because the more altcoins that are created, the more liquidity that they take from Bitcoin, the more market cap that they take, the more market share and all of those things, right? So when we're looking at this and we're seeing how this is in this long-term downtrend, we're starting to see Dogecoin breaking out and reversing. And historically speaking, this is only the point in which Bitcoin dominance tops that Dogecoin does this. I don't find it coincidental that these are all kind of lining up at the same exact time. I find it more that this is confluence. Anytime you have multiple points of data that kind of converge at the same signal, it always gives more validity to what that signal is given. And in fact, what this signal is given is showing that, altcoins are reversing, Bitcoin dominance is topping, and historically speaking, when we're looking at Bitcoin from this long-term basis, it lines up pretty much perfectly with all of our prior cycles. We've just retested this prior all-time high. Historically speaking, once we've done this, that's really marks the point in the cycle where Dogecoin starts to run, and we can see that's been the case every single one of these bull markets. So I don't really think that anything is set to change, because so far the market is anticipating the exact same thing to be playing out. So regardless, guys, maybe we get a deeper correction in here for Bitcoin before this is over. But if I had to jump in the shorter time frames and I had to just take a look, big picture, nothing really changes. All we're really doing right now is still just flirting with the exact same, all-time highs. This is the prior all-time high. We temporarily broke out of it here. We're unable to hold it and rejected back below here and here. Now we did get another false breakout here, and now we're technically closing below it in the shorter time frame. So when I see Bitcoin doing this, at the end of the day, we could go through a period of consolidation. On the low end, we make one more low before going up and do something like this. But I don't think it's going to change the fact that in the greater picture, we're seeing all of the altcoins reversing. We're starting to see that retail is picking back up in frequency, and this only ever happens before new all-time highs. Now, guys, I wanted to share with you you the one altcoin on today's video that I think is about to be breaking out, that is at a reversal point, and one that I wanted to give you an update on because it's one of my favorite altcoins going into this next cycle. Alrighty guys, here we are to jump into the altcoin on today's video, and this is going to be PulseLaunch. They had to reissue tokens, and so everybody now has their tokens, everything is fixed, and this is the official token that is now trading. So I wanted to give an update around this, mainly for the people that have been asking me. Go check your wallets. I will link the contract address in the description of this video so you guys can find it. Just copy the address, paste it in your MetaMask, and you're going to end up seeing this thing in there. Now, for the people that didn't get to buy this or were wanting to buy this, it's still at a discount. In fact, as long as it's trading below 10 cents, you're getting a discount. And so I've had a lot of people kind of wondering when I'd give an update on this because they were wanting to buy in. And anything under this yellow line is below the pre-sale price, and you will have an opportunity of getting in. Technically, there was people that got in at like 8 cents. They got a 19% discount, so there was a little bit of an advantage for being early. But at the end of the day, you'd be getting the same discount as the people that got in the earliest to our launch. And so this is a token that just recently broke out of its downtrending resistance, and this was the main thing that I was waiting for before I made a video. I wanted to wait for the panic sellers to capitulate. We saw massive sell volume that came in here on both of these wicks, only for the price to more or less instantly rebound on support. We rebounded, reclaimed support, and then at the same time that we did that, we also broke from our downtrend. So we've been downtrending inside of this resistance for a while, only for the price to finally have just broken out. And this is an early sign that I do think that this thing is set to reverse. The big thing that we're watching for PulseLaunch is now that we've broken out, we might consolidate here for a little bit, but if we were able to get above this 10-cent region, I don't think that we're going to go back below it. Once we get above 10 cents, I think that this thing is going to go into a new all-time high. And the announcements that they do have planned around staking, around all of the incubations that are actually coming to this launch pad, anybody that's holding launch tokens themselves is not only going to get an airdrop once the platform goes live in a couple months, but then you're also going to be getting access to all of the incubations, the pre-sales that are going to go live once the platform also launches. So these are all important things because the only way you're going to get access to the pre-sales is by holding launch tokens. The fact that you can actually get them at a discount right now is an opportunity. We have broken out of our downtrend, and so I don't really think that we're going to probably sit around here much longer before we start breaking up. This thing only has a $6.7 million market cap and 388K liquidity. It's not going to take very much to move the price of this thing a lot. And when I'm looking at this thing just going up to the all-time highs, you're looking at basically a 1x return, but I firmly believe that this thing is going to be going into a new all-time high. We're only on a 15-minute time frame because the token literally just got added. So big picture, this thing is going to massively outperform, and it's really once these incubations get announced, which I already know what they are, I already know what's coming. You guys can definitely join the Discord linked below. You can see all of the upcoming incubations. They've basically got the launch wallet, they have the launch bridge. I can't talk about which chains they're going to actually be linking to, but I can tell you guys right now, one of the biggest issues with Pulse Chain is the bridge and the lack of bridges that exist over here. And I'm telling you guys right now that Launch will have the very best bridge, and they're going to be able to unite a lot of different chains over to Pulse Chain. So if you guys want to be able to get access to any of these pre-sales, if you guys want to be able to do anything inside of this ecosystem, you have to hold Launch, you have to stake Launch, and all of those details will be announced soon. But the big thing, guys, I wanted to cover this because I had people asking me when I think a good time to buy is, and I would have to say that any time that we're below this 10-cent region, below the sacrifice price, that is a good buy. The fact that we're at 8.5 cents, to me, won't last long. I think that this thing's about to be breaking out because we finally just reversed in the shorter time frames. So guys, if you found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. If you guys want to see how I'm investing long term, anything I'm doing in my portfolio, buying, selling, trading, taking profits, whatever it is, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website so you guys can get access to my long-term plans. With that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate and love each and every one of you, and I can't wait to catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.